Okay, good morning, everybody. I'd like to call to order a meeting of the Orleans County Industrial Development Agency Board of Directors on this Friday, February 11th, 2022 at 8 a.m. This meeting will be held at the offices of 121 North Main Street, Albion, New York. Diane, if you would please start us off with a roll call.
Okay, John Fitzek.
Here.
John Massini.
Here.
Carol.
Yep.
Etta Bannick.
Here. Here. Okay, and we do have a quorum. You all received copies of the minutes of the previous meeting of January 14th, 2022. Do we have any additions, corrections, or deletions to those minutes? Hearing none, be happy to entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Ed, seconded by Carol. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion unanimously carried. Okay, moving on. Good morning, Michael. Financials.
Good morning. Reviewing our accounts that we have currently set up, IDA checking account is at $46,298.91. Our pilot account is currently at $159,694. 40 cents. Revolving loan funds, $21,822.18. The Land Restoration Corporation checking account at $84,204.89, and then the Land Restoration gain account at $141,611.94, and then the Divina Project account is at $458.10 for that, and then the Western New York Energy Stabilization Fund $465,946.54. Overall, January is a slow month from a revenue standpoint. We got about just over $1,000 come through. And then the net income about $30,388.82. If you're looking at the transaction detail report, there's two entries in there that don't match up and show on the profit and loss statement. One for the county contribution of $47,500. For some reason, it's in there because it's when we invoiced it. Diane and I are working now to kind of get that cleaned up and figured out because it really didn't come through and hit our checking account until February. And then the pension fund isn't flowing through on the profit and loss statement, even though that was on there as well. So there are just some goofy things happening. We're going to work with Virginia on our QuickBooks to get that cleaned up. If you look at our balance sheet, though, not a lot of changes. I do want to point out, Ed, you brought up the M&T line of credit. That got cleaned up. And there's one more thing on here that we'll have Virginia work on. Is there was a LDC debt due to them for $25,000. We actually paid that last year.
I was going to say, I thought
that was paid last year, so we're gonna get that out of there and get that cleaned up.
It's really easy in QuickBooks too.
Yeah,
and it's still balanced.
Well, so a lot of it's the auditors also,
Yeah,
you know, they do entries in and out and they don't ask us, you know, what the deal is and, you know, so.
Yeah, I think probably 95% of the people I dealt with, their liabilities were never accurate until I got cleaned up.
so that, just so you know, so that's gonna change the scope on this too. So we're working on that to get that cleaned up. But overall, you know, we're walking a tight line the next couple months until we have some revenues coming in with some of the projects we've been working on. But we're very mindful of that, and so Diane and I are working to make sure we're keeping bills in line, and then what we have to do to make sure we're operating appropriately to keep track of that. So just so you guys know. And that's what I have for financials.
All righty. Any questions or comments? If not, I'd be happy to entertain a motion to accept the financials. Motion made by John Massini, seconded by John Fitzek. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is unanimously carried. Moving on, committee reports. Good morning, Gabrielle, Business Development.
Good morning. We talked in the past a little bit about the CW cold storage expansion project in Murray. They contacted me this week, and after doing their due diligence, the substantial costs of the building materials and related project costs, that they have decided to postpone that expansion until things are a little more favorable, but they've spent quite a bit of time on it, and I think that it was great working with them. They have a lot of energy, and I think that they're going to do well going forward. Comfort Inn and Suites, which was formerly known by another name, and Medina Hospitality, they are planning on their soft opening in early March. We will keep you updated. There's still a lot of activity and a lot of work going on at the hotel. Medina Hospitality has stepped in, and they have redone a lot of things that they did not find to their satisfaction. So all of that seems to be proceeding quite well. The reservation line is up and running, and since last week, and reservations are off to a very brisk start. So we'll see where this goes. I mean, we've got a long way to go on this in certain areas because of the weather, but Comfort Inn and Suites made it extremely attractive. They wanted a facility. They were looking for locations, and so we seem to have found each other.
Nice article in the Hub on that too.
Yes, Tom and I took Tom there and made the introductions, and yeah, he
You did a nice job.
I'm not.
You call Comfort Inn Suites 800 number, or is it a local?
No, right now you can call 1-800-4-CHOICE because they're part of the Choice. And I give everybody that number. There's also a local number at the same time, but that local number is still being answered by Comfort until they actually switch everything over. The installers are there doing work and have been there for the last couple of weeks. So yes, 1-800-4-CHOICE would be the reservation line.
So are they at the point where they'll be starting to look to hire permanent staff?
First of all, yes, they've been in touch with workforce development, and with Kelly, they gave her a list of the job openings. Actually, it's quite interesting because they've told me there are a lot of people walking in that, said, look, I've been waiting for you to open, and I really would like a job, in room service or that type of thing. So but they're also working with workforce development. They have not hired, as of last night, they have not hired a general manager yet, but they have some very, very good candidates. And the investor group has been actually on site doing a lot of physical work themselves. So it's, I'm in daily contact with them. So yeah, it's getting there. It's going to take a while, but the landscaping and the rest of the site work will be completed in early spring, as soon as Jen Hill can do that with the opening of our different.
Going to be well worth the wait.
Well, we're yes, it is, and I appreciate everybody's and they appreciate everyone's help in the community, because they've really been a lot of people stopping by, a lot of people saying, what can we do? And a lot of our tradespeople, have had some very nice opportunities there too. So that seems to be going well. And I'll send everybody that 800 number. Kyle Brent closed on the permanent rail easement that we've been working on for quite some, or hearing about for some time. And that is going to serve the existing Burns-O-Matic facility and a future new building on the vacant 25 acres to the south of Burns. So we're working with him on some other matters now. And so that's gone along very well.
To bring John up to speed, you want to just spend a couple of minutes talking about that whole project? and
Sure.
situation?
That former Burns-O-Matic facility was bought by Kyle Brent maybe 4 or 5 years ago. He's a young businessman from Lockport, Niagara County. And there was a remediation done on site. That issue was identified by the Burns-O-Matic and the Newell folks when they were there. However, it's taken a long time. He has seen it through. He was able to secure a grant from National Grid. The original 36,000 square foot building has now been removed.
Oh, really?
So we can go there. We talked about that a little bit. So that has been removed. The site is beginning to look beginning to look very good. He's very particular on aesthetics. So when that is completed, it is going to have a very nice look to it. The next phase, there's some buildings on the site that were used way back in the day in World War II for prisoner of war camps. Those are going to be removed next. He's looking at this now that he has this permanent easement. There's a rail that runs alongside. That rail will come off, this easement will come off the rail, service the rear of the former Burns-O-Matic facility. And then it's going to be engineered to extend over to the vacant 25-acre lot that's wooded that he owns. And there's an expectation that he will be developing a site for future development on that particular piece of property. He has retained Martin Janda, who does our work. And Martin is working on, there's a couple of wetlands there. Some of them can be remediated. So those have been identified. Kyle has also secured from the Village of Medina, has bought additional property that the Village of Medina had on their back inventory that nothing was happening with it. They couldn't dispose of it. It was too small for any kind of development. So he purchased those from the Village of Medina, and he purchased the roadway. So there's his long-term plans are very interesting as those begin to unfold. But right now, Snappy is in that facility, and Snappy, they're tin makers. They're going to be doing I didn't have an appreciation. I didn't really understand some of the things they did, but they do the air duct systems for a lot of our hospitals and a lot of our medical facilities. So they can't hire enough people. They have an excellent recruitment package. You'll see their signs, though. They're trying to, like everyone else, do a little more hiring, but they're doing well. They are going to secure the last 36,000 square feet in that building to expand. Likely they will do that because Kyle Brent has part of his business in there now. He's building a new facility in Niagara County as well. But, he's doing a good job.
Good, thanks for that update.
Yeah. Now let's see, Bomet. Michael and I have been talking. Bomet has gone quiet, as Bomet does, and everybody who's been on this board knows that Bomet goes in and out. But they're working on they're working on how they're going to be transporting and how they're going to utilize the rail service, both for the facility in Medina and for Albion. Albion, if they can get that up and running sooner, that's going to be better. Medina will be using the team track over on Gwynn Street. That's the whole, and he's negotiating right now because he can't get product in.
Is there a spur off of the Albion railroad line to service his facility?
No.
There's not.
There used to be,
was.
but
There
yeah,
was.
so that it's been pulled out.
Okay.
They still have the track inside the building in that one spot there.
Yeah, it comes off the side. Yeah.
Okay.
He's happy to go to Batavia and unload. We introduced him. And he's happy to go to Batavia for the Albion facility, load and to unload from there. That's not an issue. It's not an issue for him to unload at the team track in Medina. It really, he can't do the Medina facility until we've got that resolved. There's also, as we might have mentioned before, he brought up, he said, I may want to purchase another 10 acres. I said, be able to do that, you know? So that, until he's got that resolved. And he, you know how he is, he resolves things. He's very resilient, but you don't always hear from him. And, but yeah, I predict when all this business dies down another month in Canada, he'll be back over. Stockham Lumber in Holly has launched a step manufacturing project. And they're looking forward to having their, a team track that Jim secured a grant for on their facility. But he's very pleased. He's got a sales force in, Monroe, Niagara, Erie, and Genesee County. So they're young, they're very good business people. And he also has a purchase offer in on the former Snappy site on Commercial Street, the end of Main Street in Medina. And I talked with him earlier this week. That is being held up a little bit because he is, his business plan, he's working with our close friends at Niagara Community College, the SBA there. Deneen, she's working on his business plan. She's also working on developing the business plan for Earth Tech in Holly. So one of them had to wait 6 weeks for an appointment. So he told me that they are finishing that up and he expects to go to the bank. Closing is anticipated in May timeframe. So we'll see. So we've got some work going on there. Michael and I are scheduled to meet with the owners of the former White Brothers property located in the village of Medina, town of Shelby. They have retained BME Engineering for their site development. They're coming into town next week, isn't it? Didn't we set the date? Yes, next week.
Yeah, end of February,
I think it's before.
following week,
Yeah,
22nd.
yes, they're coming in and we're going to meet with them. We want to show them some of the opportunities they're looking at. They haven't decided what type of development there, whether it's housing, whatever it might be, but they are also in that they've got I think close to a 50-acre site. I don't know how much of it is usable, but we haven't had that kind of interest in a while. And that's, so we're going to see where that's going to go. And I think they're very excited about doing it. They have done, the principal owner has done other developments in other states, and those have been patio homes and that type. Whether that happens here, I'm not sure, but they've owned that property and now they want to put it to use if that's possible, once they see what's going on there. We're working with Aaron Bauer of Earth Tech on his Holly project. And I expect to speak with him early next week regarding his project and how we're going to be structuring that. I talked with him this week and things are moving in a very good direction. And I think we've been able to present him with some very viable and competitive reasons why locating in the Holly Business Park would be to their advantage. They're also looking at another site in I think it is in this Brockport area. But that might, I think he wants to be back. I think he wants to be back, and we're going to do everything we can to make that possible. And we are also working with workforce development. There are a number of companies that have called me and said, look, these are my woes, and you can imagine what they are. Some of it is workforce, some of it can be corrected, some of it is simply the fact that I think people have to look at, some of our companies have to look at what the competitive wages are, and we're working on that. So,
I think Ken made, housing is tough. I know in Kendall, no, there's people that who would think that they want to live in Kendall and there's no place to buy. And if there's something that goes up, you can't afford it. And you wouldn't think it. You would think that it'd be an easy place, but
All over the place.
yeah, housing is, for people to come into this area to take good jobs, to live someplace.
Well, hopefully we'll have some other housing options
Yeah.
available.
Yeah,
And that was that they're the one, they've taken the initiative.
Yeah.
So hopefully, we're looking at that and we've got a couple of other projects that look like very good opportunities that have just come into the forefront. So,
Right.
any questions? Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Craig. Joe. Moving on, want to do a project update?
Yeah, so where we're at with the Heritage Wind Project, ORS, Office of Renewable Energy, did approve that project, so they are good to go move forward on that. I reached out to Carmen to see where they stand with the financing. I have not heard back yet, so we want to stay in touch with them, make sure we're at the forefront when I do close, because that affects this agency from a financial standpoint. So that's where that is. I'm working with the taxing jurisdictions on the Hemlock Ridge Solar Project right now. We are coordinating a time to get together and start talking about pilots. So we have Shelby Berry, Oakville, Alabama School District, Albion School District, Medina School District, and obviously the county as well. We're trying to coordinate some dates the next couple of weeks. It sounds like next week was going to work, so I think we're going to end up looking at February 28th to early March timeframe, kind of sit down, figure out what we want to do for that pilot and kind of mediate and help them kind of based on what other solar projects have done in the past for dollars per megawatt, as well as how to divvy up the actual HCA's. I know Barry's gonna want to do HCA. I heard that Shelby might want to do HCA, so it's kind of getting everybody to the table and getting it down on paper to see what the breakdown is going to be on that. So we'll have that coordinated for the next couple of weeks and work more on that. Big Guys Camping, they do have a commitment letter from the bank for their financing, which is great. So that should be moving, closing here soon. So
Well, I see DEC has just scheduled a public comment period on their speedies permit.
oh, good.
Yeah, that financing may close by the end of this month.
Seems like there's one activity.
There is an Earth Tech developers one that we're working on for Holly. They're one of the big developers that's actually
Are they?
helping out with
Yeah.
the Big Guys Campground.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, my driveway, the big equipment's moving.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's going well. We've had some dialogue with Medina regarding the bridge project, and so that's kind of wintertime. We're at a low right now, but that'll start ramping back up in springtime. That's the pedestrian bridge next to Mariachi's and where the modular homes are kind of there in the community there. So that should be kicking off more moving forward. Going from there, back in late November, early December, we had put together a proposal for a project that GRE had reached out to us about. That site selector has come back to us and asked for a full-fledged, detailed information packet on the Medina Business Park and 60 acres that they're looking at obtaining for a project for advanced manufacturing. It was great to hear. You know, we don't always get to that point of asking for more information, more maps, more due diligence on our studies that we've completed thus far. And so that's kind of where we're at now. We've got everything submitted back in January 29th, we submitted everything because that was the due date. Now we're waiting to hear back on a short list for coming in and doing actual site visits, which will be late February to March. So we're kind of at their expecting disposal when they come in and do that. So it's exciting to be considered like that. And it's exciting to know what we have for infrastructure and land available here to put something like that together. So more to come once that starts to progress forward on that.
Well, and hopefully it won't be minus 10 degrees for the site visit like last time, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh, that was cold. I think it was more of the wind factor than anything else. So hopefully that will be minimal. But that's where that is. And that's really it for major project updates right now.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments on anything on the project list?
Not yet.
Okay, thanks.
I got one question. Those guys down in Yates, how are they doing with the Canadian man?
All the meat,
Uh,
Well, he's doing,
yeah.
I guess he's only supplying Canada.
Mhm.
Simply because I don't know that he has the kind of, yeah, he has the ability or the staff or the resources to do more here, but he's taking care of Canada.
He said he was significantly backlogged, and that's why everything's going to Canada now and hasn't distributed anything to the US yet. And able bodies to help the sales efforts in the US is kind of the other part of that too, so.
But he seems to be happy. You know, it took him years to get down there, and he's very resourceful. They're very resourceful, so I think you're going to see where they start. He had a lot of contracts in the Buffalo, Rochester, New York City area already lined up, but I mean, those have obviously been delayed. So, no, he seems to be happy, and he's not always happy.
That's your good buddy Mario, isn't
That's
it?
my good buddy Mario. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on, sites, facilities.
Yeah, so had a brief conversation with Dennis, with Urban Anthony. They are facilitating the Northern Borders grant that's working on Medina Team Track, Holly Track, and then doing a study for extension of the rail West New York Energy to the southern portion of Medina Business Park. Everything is moving along the way it should. They're getting bids and proposals. They're getting bids out, or getting proposals out to receive bids on the Medina Team Track rail replacement right now. So that should be moving along nicely since everything's in line to stay on top of that for their dates of completion. So we look good for that. And then we continue to move forward. And, you know, John, I don't know if anyone's kind of talked to you, but rail is becoming a really hot item for us in Orleans County of late. And, you know, I think Bo is one of a huge example of, until he realized a rail opportunity, his footprint was going to be X. Now we're talking Y and Z down the road. And down the road is within the next year of expanding that footprint due to the logistics of having rail, because the margin on his product that he brings is so minimal. So any dollar he can save on shipping, it's tenfold for him. And he was telling us back early December how he would actually send product to Canada, unload it off a truck, put back on the same truck and bring it back to the US because it was cheaper to do that than to go from point out towards Michigan, Ohio, Indiana area and bringing it in straight to New York. It's cheaper to do that. How that's possible? It's baffling.
Yeah.
It's baffling. So rail's becoming very big. Stock of lumber is interested in it. If they can get, you know, more products in, that's something that they're interested in. And we're starting to hear chirpings of other people that have had interest in, well, if I can get a couple cars a month, what would that look like? So it's great to hear that, you know, we're not pigeonholed to look at just trucking for bringing product in and shipping out, that rail is coming back and making a strong effort. I don't know if you had seen Hochul's address she had made about the rail grants that are going out. I think Genesee Valley Transportation is getting about 900,000 for rail improvements in the area. So that's a huge stepping stone for this area. You know, what that's going to, where that money's going in towards what, I don't know yet. We'll have to talk with Matt to see if he has any insight on where that money potentially might be directed towards. But no, it's good things with the rail coming up. And then the only other thing I'm going to touch on is we had a preliminary call with Labella regarding our traffic study. They gave us a preliminary review. We had a lot of questions and some things that weren't in there that we wanted answers on. So they're going back through looking at everything, the data they collected for traffic. And they're going to rework that document a little bit more and give us some more finite and some of the questions we had, getting them on paper and then talking to the DOT to see, you know, a meeting where we can talk to the DOT and say, here, these are our concerns.
Right.
These are community concerns. What does that look like for your recommendations for when this starts to ramp up? And then once we have that actual study completed and signed off on, we'll present it to the board and likely have Lorenzo come in or conference in and have him talk to the board with that and see the findings of that. So,
Good, that's important information. to have.
yeah. So that's all we have to say. Anything else? Lou?
Not that we can,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
that we're, I guess, current, yes.
Okay, any questions? Moving on, good morning, Diane, map and LTC report.
Okay, so the next class starts on April 5th, ends on June 14th. I have 14 people that want to join the class. I haven't had to advertise in 3 years, just, word of mouth. The grants, I've only got one more grant that I'm working on, which I'll do next Tuesday for Wildflower Deli and Bakery for 21,000. And she had, it was quite a nice article on her. I wasn't here, but I heard about it. So yeah, so she's getting a lot of
So will that exhaust your funds then? When you
Yeah,
get
yeah,
that
so
grant?
I'll have spent 170,000, and then my hope is to apply for another grant.
Good.
So I'll probably start doing that in March, maybe. So yeah, so it's gonna be another 170,000.
Good.
And I already have like 5 people interested. I went through the course, and so yeah, pretty exciting.
Very good.
So in the funds, in the HUD unrestricted funds, we have 49,897, and the high market account, we have 79,285.08.
Good.
Any questions?
Good job, Diane. Thank you. Any questions? Moving on, Diane, you want to do a pilot report?
So I sent out the county and town invoices for the pilots, and I only have about 3 businesses they haven't paid yet. So I already sent them a friendly reminder.
Very good. Very good. Okay, thank you. Moving on. Good morning, Kevin. Anything for legal?
No report this morning.
Thank you. We'll find out who you're rooting for on Sunday later.
Executive session for that.
Yeah,
Paul.
executive
Oh.
session.
Uh-oh. Marketing. So a few things. Mindful Media has been working on with National Grid very diligently on the scope of the survey work. John Oakley and Mindful Media is working with National Grid some grant opportunities for our local municipalities across Orleans County for further study and development of finding out their needs and shortcomings. So National Grid wants that data because then we can turn that data into opportunities for federal grants and state grants. And so we need that backup data to get that out, to get to that next step. We're applying for a lot of these things. And Dina's been doing great work on that. And actually she's gotten to a point where with National Grid talking about EV charging stations within the county too. So that's an opportunity for, as you start to see talk about electric vehicles being more prominent. There are opportunities for National Grid to fund some of that. And one of the opportunities we have one at the hotel, as well as a couple in the business park as well. So she's looking at finding ways for National Grid to fund those types of projects. And then obviously there'd be a revenue stream associated with those items as well. So, but she's been doing great work and on top of National Grid and finding the dollars to make it happen. So it's been great feedback on that.
How would a funding stream work? Would you like throw a quarter in to get 12 minutes of charge or?
That we don't know yet.
Okay.
There's 3 different levels of charging
Mhm.
stations. You got your mid-sized car vehicle, you have your larger, like a UPS style vehicle, and then actual trucking out there. And I have not heard how they'll pay for it, or if it's how it's funded, if it's a credit card, or if it's something you can charge through that. It's something we're gonna work through and figure that
I'm
out.
talking after you get the charging station in. Is there a funding stream to keep it up to date? I mean, who's gonna pay for the electricity at that point?
That's one of the things that are being worked on, now. I think there's a revenue stream for maybe, well, let's say they're at let's say that we put them on in the park, we put one in the park. So then we would have there'd be a meter, they'd slide the card. This is one of my earliest conversations, when they'd slide the card, we'd get the revenue.
Okay.
And obviously, or then in some cases, you might have one day a week or a month that, you let somebody charge, you let them charge or nothing.
They'll voluntarily pay the road tax.
And the thing of it is, which we didn't understand, when you're talking about all of these types of charging stations, what we would want, what we should have in that park, is not just the regular run of the mill. So they rewrote their specs because we wouldn't have been able to,
Apply for it,
they wrote the specs for the larger counties. We did get the
Yeah,
specs.
Dina worked with the Buffalo office, well, head of the Buffalo office to say, well, we're not big enough as a Medina jurisdiction to do it, but if we encompass all of Orleans County and all the Jackson jurisdictions, we are big enough to encompass this to fit what you're trying to do. If you allow us to, instead of one entity, 10 entities, we can make this happen and fit your mold of what you're looking for. And actually, they kind of, what she was able to work it where they changed some of the standards of the footprint of needing to be able to apply. They flexed on that a little bit to allow for some opportunity for us to get in there as a county versus as Medina or Holly or Albion. And so it worked out well. Yeah.
So I'm just ignorant about this. whole
No, it's
process.
okay.
So who will own this charging station?
Well, I mean, I think it's twofold. Like if it's in the business park, obviously we would own it. Or it's,
Even if businesses go in there, we still own that and are responsible for upkeep or whatever.
or if it's the business, let's say, I'm gonna use GM as an example. We'll see GM comes in, well, we want to put charging stations in for our employees.
Right.
It's your,
We would work with them to help
To turn
GM
it
out.
to set it up.
Yep, and then coordinate that, but then essentially, because they're essentially buying the land from us, and it's now their land to
Right.
operate.
That's what I wondered, like even with the hotel, I mean, that's not really ours, that they would be responsible for the charging station.
I don't think he's got room, but we do on our property. I don't
Oh,
think
so
he's
it would
got-
be next to that.
I think it would be
facility.
behind it, is what we're thinking about. He doesn't have the room, I don't think, to do, I didn't realize how much land was needed.
That's
did-
interesting.
He has 3 additional acres there. And I think there's plans for, why wouldn't I want a restaurant there?
Sure.
So why wouldn't he?
So we're looking as an organization to
Create
To be-
opportunities.
to have, this is part of our organization.
Yes.
Is these charging station. And so when you said it wouldn't be just in Medina, we're looking to put one in Holly but that's why we can be looked at, because we're looking to not just service Medina.
No.
It makes our properties more attractive at that
Yeah.
point. Okay.
Now Holly, you mentioned Holly. Holly is a municipal electric.
Yeah.
So Holly would not be included in that because
Okay.
it's their own, but
That's true.
in one of the other towns declined
Mhm.
in the east, they didn't let- but I can tell you Barry is very interested.
Mhm.
And Ridgeway, I think, it's one of the towns.
Right. I just don't know how this works, so
Yeah.
it's interesting.
We're learning as we go too, so
Yeah.
don't feel bad.
Okay.
Well, and I'm like you, Carol. I don't pretend to know. I'm lucky I can plug the light bulb in, okay? But it would seem to me if you could locate, I mean, I'm driving an electric car, it needs to be charged. If I can charge it and then maybe do a little shopping downtown or something while the thing is charging up. I mean, isn't that the way it works? Except for overnight charging. I assume that's the way it works. I don't know. So if they could be located in a place that,
So if they
Strategically,
wanted
yeah.
one in
yeah,
Albion,
strategically.
Walmart
exactly.
would put it in. We wouldn't be involved in that. We're just putting it in our properties.
Not necessarily. I think some of the businesses that are interested, and some are not, you know, it
Right.
depends on the
So we
footprint
help
they
them
have.
maneuver through that.
Mhm. Yeah,
Right.
some of them are interested, some of
I'm just
them
trying
don't
to
want
get it
to,
in
some of
my
it's
head how
too
this all-
premature.
Be like
Yeah.
payphones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and there's a time sensitive, from what I understand, we don't have a lot of time. I mean, I had one company come to me and said, you know, we're interested. And then when I took National Grid there, that, well,
Mhm.
maybe they weren't. So, you know,
Right, right.
it's still in its infancy.
yeah.
Mhm.
It's interesting.
It's more time needed. I know I go by one and it's interesting where I stay and when I play baseball in Phoenix, there's a 20 station charge. I've seen one car there in 2 years.
I believe it.
Yeah. And there's 20 of them. Lined up and,
Well,
I
I'm
don't know.
trying to buy a car and try to buy a car.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
you're gonna have either the charge, you know, the electric. or-
But you know, it's funny, there's a train sitting in Irwin's right now. It's been sitting there waiting to get unloaded with new cars for 2-3 weeks.
Really?
Yeah, not enough staff to get the train to the yard to unload.
I heard that from one of the car agencies
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
We're in tough times, but
Yeah, well, keep us updated on
Absolutely.
charging stations. Anything else, Michael? Any questions? Okay, if not, I'd be happy to entertain a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of discussion of acquisition, sale, and lease of real property. Motion made by Carol, seconded by John. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. We are now in executive. Set. Okay, moving on our agenda. Any unfinished business?
Do a motion. Come on.
Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. I would like to add to the agenda under new business, the first item of my interest to entertain a motion to extend the option to purchase property by Brunner. That option would be extended to April 8th, 2022, not to go beyond April 8th, 2022 per the original option plus legal costs. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by John, seconded by John Massidi. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is unanimously carried. Okay, if we move on, we have the corporate action and our bylaws. And the first item is, always makes me uncomfortable, the 2022 election of officers. We have chairman, vice chairman, secretary, treasurer, and assistant chairman. And we have put in your packet, Michael has put in your packet, a suggested list of officers. Based upon your interests, we can go through each office individually and ask for a nomination and a second, or we can entertain a motion to accept the slate. That's up to the board.
Basically, what I proposed is chairman, vice chair, treasurer, and assistant treasurer to be extended for another year. And with additions of Ed Urbanek taking a secretary role and John Fitzek taking an assistant secretary role. And because we only have currently 6 board members, we would need everybody to take a spot.
But there is extra pay in that, John, when you carry that title.
We'll bring it in.
Or hard candy. There you go.
It's multiplied by 0.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Multiply it by any number you want. So that's a proposal. If you folks are comfortable with that, we'll be happy to entertain a motion just to accept that slate of officers.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Ed, seconded by John Massidi. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you very much for the vote of confidence in all of us. We're all voting in confidence for each other. I like that. Moving on, the appointment of a CEO, CFO, and administrative director according to our bylaws. I'll be happy to entertain a motion to appoint our CEO, CFO. Mr. Michael Dubell.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by John, seconded by Carol. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion unanimously carried. Congratulations. Item next is the committee members. And I suppose, John, since you're the newest guy, you have the right to boot anybody off anything you want. I wouldn't suggest it, but I think you could if you want. If
I
not,
declined.
I think the suggestion is that we keep the committee structure the way that Michael has outlined it here. Unless there's a dying need to move from one and go to the other.
I'm the chair of the audit committee, so does the audit committee.
We will be
We
meeting
will be meeting.
next month.
Okay, so I'll be happy to entertain a motion to accept the committee assignments for 2022. Motion made by John, seconded by Ed. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Item next, consider resolution retaining a consultant to advise on general project and CBDG administration. I think we have something in our packet on that.
Jump one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. I missed that. Moving on next, consider the 2022 contract with Orleans County, and that we do have in our packet, and I believe it's pretty much the same as it's been in the past.
It's the same as the past. County would fund this quarterly, broken up into 47,500 payments, broken up throughout the year, effective this year, and then run through the end until December 31st, 2022.
So do I have a motion to accept the contract? Ed, seconded by John. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is unanimously carried, and we thank the county as always for their generous support of this organization. Thank you. Okay, now moving on, consider resolution retaining a consultant to advise on general projects and CBDG administration.
So we put this out to bid back in December, back in December 16th, and we solicited 6 different entities, Sycamore Group being one of them. They are previous consultant working with us on CDBG and technical assistance. The numbers are pretty much the same in terms of rates of billable hours. But they've done great work with us and like to retain them for the next 3 years. So this would go through 2020.
2024. Yeah,
2024.
at the end of it. Yeah.
Okay. If there's not any discussion, I'd be happy to entertain a motion to accept the consultant as outlined. John, seconded by Ed. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Moving on, consider resolution authorizing administrative services agreement with OLRC. And I believe that's in your packet as well.
So this is how IDA set this up, is the services are offered then extended out to land rest and LDC with separate agreements moving forward for IDA staff to then help facilitate with those 2 agencies.
Along with Sickerman.
Along with Sickerman,
Right,
by the way.
That's right.
Okay, if there's no discussion, I'd be happy to entertain a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing administrative service agreement with OLRC. Motion made by Ed, seconded by John. Macidi, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is unanimously carried. Moving on, consider resolution authorizing administrative services agreement with Orleans County LDC.
Same
And as Michael explained, same format.
Mhm.
Motion made by Ed, seconded by Carol. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is unanimously carried. Any other new business? Hearing none, be happy to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Ed, seconded by Carol. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We are adjourned at